So there you have it. The Africa Free Trade Agreement seems to be back in the news, even though it's supposed to have been working. And then we have right there from that report with Zenith Bank, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council boss. He's our guest at this time to follow up on that conversation. We know that in recent times, I think from last week, the NEPC has been asking for collaborations with banks to bridge finance gap for exporters and boost export competitiveness. Well, let's see how much he has achieved and how much he got from that meeting with Zenith Bank. Joining us, Dr. Ezra Yakusak. Good morning, Dr. Yakusak. I trust your meeting yesterday was fruitful.
Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians, and thanks for having me here. Yeah, the meeting was very, very fruitful. It was an avenue for exporters, bankers, and all other stakeholders in the export value chain to meet and discuss frankly on issues affecting non-oil export. And as you can hear from the report, it went very well. The Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area was there, and a lot of other people in the export sector were there.
So we're going to settle on after just a little bit, but let's talk about this, your drive for collaboration with banks to get more financing for exporters. Is the challenge with exporters really finance? Because just before the Zenith Bank report, we showed you where manufacturers met, and they also talked about AfCFTA and their challenges, and they have a whole list of issues. Top on the list seem to be infrastructure, and then you talk about the FX challenge, before they now, settle down to capital.
You see, export business, like any other business, require capital. If you are going to tell us the truth, no matter how you look at it, you actually can't do business without capital. And all over the world, most of this capital is usually given to businessmen by banks. And in terms of export business, export finance is very key. As a matter of fact, you cannot engage in export business without the required finance. And you will agree with me that the cause of lack of access to this finance, especially SMEs, is an issue in the non-oil export business. And similarly, the interest rate is quite very high, sometimes 28 to 30%, and that's quite high. And exporters may not be able to cut even in terms of that. And so we decided to call a forum of bankers to train them, schedule officers in the banking sector to train them on export procedure and documentation. What we want to do is, because we receive a lot of reports from our exporters on feedbacks from on exporters on banks, and so we brought them together to even tell them a kind of capacity building to tell them what the entire gamut of export is all about. And because, you have to understand the roles of banks, which is very key. Banks right now in Nigeria, they're in charge of issuance and processing of letter of credit. They also issue various NXP forms, that's Nigerian Export Process Form. And you cannot engage in any formal export without the NXP form, that's the Nigerian Export Process Form. And these are the roles of banks. So banks are very key. So we realize that if we are to promote export, we need to involve everyone in the export value chain to come together and discuss and see how, look at the problems and proffer adequate solutions. And so the meeting was very successful. 29 banks, by the way, they were in attendance. 29 banks in attendance. And I need to also mention that for export to thrive, you see, they need finance, they need to require muscle to ensure that they purchase modern equipment. If you are talking of packaging, if you are talking of value addition, you can't add value without finance. That's the fact of the matter. You need finance to add value. Even at the Zenith Bank program yesterday, the whole concept of the program, it was all about value addition. But how can you add value if you don't have the required finance to add value? So that is the challenge we're having. And that's why we call on that meeting, and the response was good. And we're working on the communique right now.
Or shouldn't you be working with the CBN? The last MPC, we saw interest rate increase by 25 basis points. It's now almost 19%. Will the banks not have to work according to the guidelines of the CBN? So, I mean, shouldn't you be dealing with the parents?
Yeah, the parents were there, if you must know. The CBN was well represented because the CBN is more or less a government agency, and any issue we are talking about in terms of fiscal issues or financial issues, the CBN has to be involved, and we've been involved with them. Even the RT200 program, we've had several interfaces with them. The RT200 program that is now defunct. So yes, we are involving the CBN, and very soon, what we intend to do is to take it a notch higher. We intend to organize a kind of exporters bankers forum or exporters bankers dialogue, where we bring the major exporters and of course SMEs and all the bankers together to discuss and see how we can find solution to the issues. I must confess that non-oil export is gaining so much momentum now, because prior to this time, how will you imagine a bank organizing an international trade conference on non-oil export? But this time around, we are seeing that banks are engaging in training people on non-oil export. Banks are organizing international exhibition on non-oil export. And so the consciousness is high, and we are happy about that.
All right, so we'd like to know, what are you looking forward to with this meeting and collaboration you're having with the banks and the Central Bank of Nigeria? Are you looking to reduce interest rate? Do you have special packages? And how do you handle the issue of bureaucracy? Because, I mean, if you speak to a lot of farmers now about the Anchor Borrowers program, they said, oh, yeah, well, it's a good policy and all of that, but accessing it remains, a challenge. So how do you deal with that, learning from some of those lessons?
You see, you will not deal with an issue if you've not discussed with it. That's why the dialogue, and that's why these meetings are very important. You have to face it, look at it, discuss it, and take proactive measures to cope future occurrences. And so our thinking is that at the end of the day, we want to make export business as seamless as possible and less cumbersome as possible, because you will agree with that. What we've received, reports we receive from various exporters indicate that there's a lot of bureaucracy in the system, and like I said again, access to finance, the ports issues are there. I mean, infrastructural deficiency and so many other issues. So this is all embracing. We've started with the bankers. We are going further to, with the exporters and bankers and many other sectors. At the end of the day, our thinking, our objective is to ensure that we make export business as seamless and stress-free as possible.
So help us to understand how the exporters are benefiting from this, how they're able to reach you, to know about your programs, and you're signing an MOU with the banks now, how they will know what programs. Do you have a platform? You speak with them as exporters? Do you have meetings, periodical meetings with them? Or how do you, interact with them easily and open up for them to be able to get information from you?
Okay, talking about platforms, I need to tell you that we have 34 state offices in 34 states of Nigeria. And this year, alone, that's from January to June 2023, we've organized about 240 various capacity building programs where we interface with these exporters, and about 18,554 exporters participated or were in attendance in those programs. What that means is that that's a forum, that's an avenue. We discuss issues with these exporters. And also, our website is there. Anybody that's an exporter, they have access to our website, www.nepc.gov.ng, our website, and of course, our various social media platforms. We use them to convey or circulate information to various exporters.
And the AfCFTA platform is also another one that I guess they say charity begins at home. So if, as Africans, if we were to collaborate within the continent, cost of transporting goods or offering services should be cheaper. But what's really going on there? And I see that you had I think the Secretary General of AfCFTA right there at the Zenith Bank event.
Yes, and that is why AfCFTA came on board, really, because not cost of transportation, really, but cost of intra-African trade is very, very low. It's very low. I must confess this. Compared to other continents, the cost is very low, and that's why AfCFTA came on board. But right now, in the talk of AfCFTA, what we are doing is, I must confess that the takeoff of AfCFTA has been a bit slow, but right now we are collaborating with the National Action Committee in the African Continental Free Trade area. We are collaborating with them. We had a sensitization program with them, and we're implementing what we call the Guided Trade Initiative. The Guided Trade Initiative is a forum or a platform where we can test run the operation of AfCFTA. And what we've done is that we've selected 4 exporters to test run that, who are going to export within the African continent. Like I said, it's a pilot program. By the time they export under the Guided Trade Initiative, we'll look at it and ascertain the difficulties or challenges inherent therein. But by and large, it's a slow process, but I'm very sure we're going to get there. And with time, African trade, intra-African trade will improve. I must also tell you that if you look at the 2022 non-oil export performance report, among the top 10 export destinations, there was no any African country. And that, tell us the fact that we need to work more. We need to trade among ourselves. We need to do more trade among ourselves.
Yeah, and for me as a Nigerian, I get even more worried when I think of that figure you've noted. I mean, when you look at the list, and then you even look at, even within Africa, we call ourselves the giant of Africa, but we have, countries like, I think, Ghana. They have already started using the AfCFTA platform, and even if it's small, but we don't seem to have a lot going on for us as the giant of Africa in things that are supposed to benefit us. We have the resources, we have the human and the natural resources, and yet, it seems we're just down there.
Sometimes you will agree with me that sometimes it's better to take it right than to take it too fast and fail. And so that's what we're doing. It is AfCFTA, it's something that is new. We've never had it before. And so we don't expect Nigeria to just rush into it. There has to be some parameters, some variables that has to be taken into consideration in implementing AfCFTA. And like I said earlier on, as I'm talking to you, it has taken off now with the 4 exporters that we have identified to test run the process. And once that is done, we'll onboard other exporters on the platform and to see how it goes. But like I said earlier on, it's a success story that is coming up on the way.
All right, we pray for that success. Dr. Ezra Yakusak, the Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Thank you for your time, and we wish you a safe travel back to your base.
Very much.
All right, we are still doing commodities. It's AFEX Commodities time, but that's after this break. To stay with us.